Hi, everyone. I'm Carm O'Sullivan. I call myself the heart-to-heart medium, and I'm a healer. I do healing work, bioenergetic therapy, Reiki, healing touch, certified in that. And I also believe words can heal people. And through that, I have found that we need to live in the heart center more. And I'm looking for interesting people who've had extraordinary experiences and who come through and become their best selves. And with that right now, Rachel is one of the people I was drawn to. I've known Rachel for about 5 years. I connected to you because of Facebook. I look at people's energy and find out how, if I want to meet them. And Rachel
So
was,
interesting.
yeah, I read energy. I mean, everybody I meet, I can feel their energy. I actually feel their energy before I see them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you get strong impressions about.
Very much so. And you know, what's funny is I trust my gut on most things. And even the people I feel like, ooh, you know, I lean into them because I might want to hear a story of theirs, that why they are the way they are. And I do believe when you live in the heart center, you have to come to the center and look at people for their challenges, what makes them up. And some people who are the grumpy ones, I look at why they're grumpy, you know, like, okay, why is this guy angry today? Must be having a bad day, because really we all come in with the loving spirit, and through our life experiences, the filters, the programming we learn, and the experiences, that shifts and makes us. So once we recognize those things, what we can do is find out how to change them if they don't serve us well in our heart. So an unhappy person can choose to be happy if they recognize who they are, and they can shift their mind and decide, you know what, I'm tired of this unhappy stuff. No more. So with that, you make a point of moving in a happy direction. So with that, I just wanted to talk to you today because you've really been in I would say a hard year. 2021, very hard. And we're not alone. I mean, you were affected by COVID.
Right.
And you are a strength. That's what the first thing I saw about you is your strength and your soft heart. And she's not afraid to be vocal on her opinions, but yet kind. So with that, I'm drawn to that. I love strong women.
I get that.
But I would love to find out kind of like, you know, why are you running for, she's running for HD 17, by the way, which is
Colorado House of Representatives, you guys.
I hope she wins. I support her on this. And but your backstory. Give me a little of your backstory.
I've got a lot of backstory. I'm not even sure how far back we should go, but I have been in this area in Colorado Springs most of my life. So I just absolutely adore our region. And I've been here a long time. It's kind of weird just seeing the growth and the change, some of what it's brought with it. This is not the Colorado Springs that I grew up in. The Colorado Springs that I grew up in, airport really went to the airport, although it was Shrevers.
Oh my God, that's true.
Academy really went to the academy. And Powers didn't have anything on it. That's how long.
Kind of a dirt road, probably,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah. That's how long I've been here. When all of the houses in our famous sprawl showed up on Powers, it was kind of a surprise for most of us who had been here.
How far out are you?
But I had a pretty problematic upbringing in that, you know, I was in a single parent home, and all of us were very bright, but we were also undisciplined and absolute fools for children, and I was probably the biggest nut. So when
The biggest challenge to your mom, you mean?
oh my God, I know that she's sitting somewhere like, I'm just glad I made it alive with that fool. I was always into something highly creative, sometimes in the wrong way. I remember wanting to make movies over, where the Manitou Caves are, and, we're with kids exploring that's wasn't necessarily the best idea, and some things that arose out of that. Or
she's telling her deep dark secrets.
Oh my God, I was a hot mess at school. I was in the office all the time. I think I was kind of free-spirited, and that doesn't necessarily work in the school system.
Were you like a rule breaker?
Oh God, constantly. In fact, in some ways, I still am. I like rules to a certain extent, but if I feel like a rule is unfair, I'm that person who's just like, can we change the rule? I think this may be what set me on the legislator path. Because I would just be like, I don't know what I think of these rules. So here I am. I'm in this family, single mom. Mom's working and going to school. The kids kind of have the rule of the house. I'm supposed to be the responsible one.
Are you the oldest?
I am. Uh-oh. And I was anything but responsible, to be perfectly honest.
Kids?
So there were just 3 of us in our household when we were growing up. And we were absolutely a hot mess. Thank goodness for a neighborhood where other people took interest in us. Oh. And for the most part, we're fairly kind, because it was the 70s, and going into the early 80s. And it was very interesting, because here we are, we're in the middle of this neighborhood, and there's pretty much nobody else black in it. So we've got like the spotlight on us all of the time. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm. I do understand.
And that was a little weird and different. And, we were pretty determined to be ourselves. And so I guess that's what we were doing. But I was kind of, plotting through school and so on and so forth. And probably forming the personality that, we see as often as we do now. That is, I may or may not take the imposed structure. I'll completely admit to that. Some people are like, how's that going to be a good lawmaker? Because sometimes our structure doesn't work.
Well, I really feel you lead from your heart first off, because I think you connect to your heart first and decide, okay, is this really fair for the good of all? And what's hurting here? What's wrong? That's what I love about you, because you're not afraid to step into the arena and say, stop, this is not right. Let's take a look at this. And that's the thing I think is one of your greatest strengths.
Thank you. That's really kind. Well, I am hoping so, because I'm not a professional politician.
Thank God.
And I'm sure some of my opponents are going to be like, she's not a professional politician. Absolutely true. I am completely guilty of not being a professional politician. I'm a relationship person.
I love that.
And so trust was hard for me as a child. Trust was hard for me as an adult. And I think a lot of that is just some of the things that happen in an environment that, maybe just doesn't, quite have everything that you would want in it, or doesn't have the structure you would want in. Because without a dad and mom gone at work or school,
you're on your own.
Yeah. And, when you're 12 or 13, the things you may think to do or choose to do may not be the best choices.
I bet she has a lot of fun stories. But
I have many, many interesting stories, but I won't be telling any of those today.
I want to ask you a question, because what I find about you and what I interpret on my energy field is that you love yourself. And you accept yourself.
That was
Would
work.
that be accurate?
I think it is, but you don't even understand the work.
Oh.
Y'all, I've been to therapy so much.
But loving yourself it's probably one of the scariest things first off to do. Mm-hmm. And I feel the biggest thing I like to teach my clients who struggle in love matters, and Valentine's Day, here we are talking love. But I feel like the most important thing we can do to teach our children and to teach ourselves is to love ourselves first and to honor ourselves, so we make the best decisions in life. And we don't get taught that a lot of times.
No, we don't get taught. Let's tell the truth. As women, we don't get taught.
No, we're
that
the worst.
At all. We are.
Women, we're so judgmental on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I hate that, because, the one thing I know for sure is if most people saw how they saw their thoughts outside of themselves and how they talk to themselves, they wouldn't be their own best friend.
Absolutely.
We're
abusive to our own
very
selves
much.
most of the time.
And once you figure that out, you got to. That's when you can stop and back up and say, "Okay, Carm, I've learned this. Get out of your head. That's stupid. That's your ego talking. Keep you down."
So I'm like, we'll ditch the childhood things. Like most people, I walked into the major relationship of my life somewhat healed, you know what I mean? But also quite a few things that needed fixing. And nothing will let you know what you need to fix about yourself faster than getting married.
Oh my gosh. True statement.
So I married the love of my life, and I just thought we were going to float on a cloud somewhere, and our children were just going to fall into line and be wonderful. And it was like all hell broke loose. Every type of chaos you could imagine kind of just moved into the house with us. And so I spent probably the first couple of years of being married being a complete fool and being in complete blame. It's his fault, it's him, it's the kids, it's them, damn it, it's the dog. I'm not even sure I like this house we built. I was everything that is a definition of hot mess. If we looked in the dictionary, we would see hot mess, and then we would see my picture from the Gazette. Rachel was hot mess.
I love that you admit that.
And I didn't know I was a hot mess. I was convinced it was everyone else. This is the kind of stuff that I think that we go through. It's what society tells us. And it was like one day I got out of bed and I just heard a little whisper like, "Girl, if you don't stop."
Where did that come from? Your higher self, maybe?
I think so.
I love
I
that.
looked around the room like, that's it. I finally cracked up. Who's talking to me? And I kind of sat down because it startled me. And then I did the crazy thing. I answered.
Oh, I love that.
I just answered like, well, how do I fix it? And I had the epiphany. You're going to have to work on yourself. Leave these people alone to be who they are. Stop judging them. Stop with all the rules. Stop with all the fuss. Sit down and consider, what am I doing to contribute to this?
Yeah, what part of me is in this mess?
And it was a changing day in my whole life.
Wow.
And, you know, I went to therapy, so I'm sitting in front of the therapist like, I know I'm a mess, but somehow that mess is showing up in my house every day with the other people that I live with. And she kind of smiled and said, well, if we work on you and you get to a place of calm, maybe calm will show up in your household as well.
The peace in the heart, the calm in the heart.
Yeah, so I had to admit some things, you know what I mean? I had to admit about things I was carrying. I had to admit about some things I was doing. I had to admit to being kind of a control freak because I was scared. I married the love of my life, and I was so excited about it, but I was so scared. I don't know if I was scared. Listen, this is how ridiculous I was. I had a house when we got married. We built our house. We built our dream house. We moved into it. I kept the other house, so if it didn't work out, I could move back into it.
You had one foot out the door already.
That's not trust, y'all.
No, you weren't trusting yourself, and you weren't trusting him. That's for sure.
And the kids, well, you know, they was kids. So
well,
I don't know how trustworthy children are, but you know, that's like a whole discussion for a different day.
That's a whole nother layer of energy in the home. You know, I think the first year of marriage for anybody is hell. And if you get through that, hopefully, you know, you can make it through the next 7, and then you have the next challenge, I call it.
Sure, but once I finally just decided, if I leave him to be responsible for his faults, and I take responsibility for my own faults in working on whatever with me, maybe we can have some balance show up. And that is indeed what happened.
Oh my gosh. I love how you talk about that, because to me, you went deep. And you owned your own, shit.
Real talk.
Sorry.
I had to.
Yeah, because, you know,
it was that or die.
The hardest thing for people to do is to go in, let their ego go, and go to their heart center and say, okay, really, what am I doing here that's causing this? And that's the hardest thing, is to confront yourself.
And really admitting I'm scared all the time, because that's what it was. I was scared all the time. And
I'm not worthy. Were you thinking I'm not worthy for him to be with me?
No, I actually thought he wasn't worthy to be with me. This is the stuff I had to fix.
Oh my God, I love it.
I was with a wonderful man and didn't know it, because I was off in left field, like I don't know what I thought I deserved. But when you're in that control space and you're scared and you're like
pushing back the people who love you and you love them, because you're not in the deep down precipices. You need to make sure they feel the same way you do.
And it was a hot mess. And so that first time in therapy was just the consideration, what if I stop blaming these people?
Yeah.
So I started letting go of that. It's like, okay, let me stop blaming them. What can I do to learn how to be happy in my day? And what can I do about being afraid all of the time? So I prayed about it. I tried to find things that would be about the opposite. What would it be like if I were courageous? What would it be like if I felt safe? What did I want? I tried to create the picture in my head of what I wanted instead of going, I don't want that. I hated blah, blah, blah from my childhood. I don't want that. I hated this experience, or I hated how this person victimized me. And just like beginning to do that, I just watched some things. It was quiet. It was like the ripple effect.
Well, it's funny. You're describing, energy, hate, the energy of hate and the things you hate. It has a low vibration. And when you bring yourself out of that and say, I'm going to start loving things that I may hate, it raises your vibration, and people follow you when you raise your vibration.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but when I think about it, I do feel like that's a lot of what happened. So then I started realizing I have these smart kids, and, they're kind of neat people, and, maybe I could be less hard on them. And I had this whole, oh my God, they're going to be bad. I've got to protect them from this, and I've got to protect them from that. And instead, I would turn off Disney. Girl, I was scared Disney was a bad girl.
Well, Baby's mother did die, that first scene.
I'm just saying, I was like, this will be a bad influence. I started leaving those children alone. And sometimes if I walked up there watching something crazy, I walked in on them. And in this movie, there's a stripper on the pole and she ain't got no clothes on and all the rest of that. And I sat down on the couch and was like, so if you went with your guy friends to something like this, what do you think is happening? And we had this whole crazy, insane conversation about, well, what are strip clubs like? Do you know what I mean?
I do, that you had a real conversation with them to bring them into the reality of what it really is, not on the TV.
Right. Is that the relationship you want to bring to the person that you marry? Mm-hmm. So we started doing things like that, and honestly, I could feel things in the house getting calmer. And then Keith always would make jokes about everything. So that's his contribution was keeping us laughing all of the time. And I just began to accept them a little bit more, and our conversations and really just interaction in general became more real and became better. And we're talking about a process that's over multiple years.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And every time we would have something that was a major disturbance with a family member, I saw it different. Like, okay, maybe it's not just that person, maybe it's all of us. Mm-hmm. And we all can kind of learn some things, because we adopted someone and he came out of a really problematic situation, a situation that was like drug dealers and stuff.
Oh,
and,
gosh.
He'd been bounced. We were like maybe the 7th or 8th foster home.
Wow.
And so he came in, and at first it brought a lot of chaos, but we kind of started getting, maybe it's what we're all thinking. Maybe it's all our reaction. Maybe we're all just jumping into the pit instead of walking around the damn thing. So, you know, I was telling someone today, those years taught me so much about how completely and utterly ridiculous it is to try to control other people when the way we have to work within relationships is to influence and occasionally to persuade.
Yeah.
But it can't come from a core of,
you can't do this, and let me tell you, control is.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's just the fear again.
Well, it's the yin and the yang. So when you try to control somebody, somebody's going to do exactly opposite of what you're trying to ask to do. I always say to my family and my clients is, you only have a 6-foot border around you, and that's all you can control in your day. So all you can do is hope for the best and put your faith out there. I slept very easily when my children were out as teenagers driving, because could I control the situation? No. And so my biggest thing was, I need my sleep, so if something does happen, I need to be able to think clearly instead of worrying. And so the man would stay awake all night waiting, and I was like a baby. But, I think letting go of control is one of the biggest things you can do to live a better life.
Yeah, and that's a process. It's literally the opposite of the programming we're all given as women. It's literally the opposite. And sometimes to be like, well, either you're going to do right or you're not.
Yeah.
It got to the point when I realized I was getting better when I would be like, you know what, it kind of is what it is. So if you create something, sometimes the hubby would get told this, if you create something, I'm going to leave you with the responsibility of managing what you've created. What we're not going to do is create something stupid and then tell Rachel to fix it.
Yeah.
Because that just, it's not helpful. And I've noticed everybody managed themselves better. They managed themselves better than I ever could have managed them.
You set up the communication and you set up the expectation. And, there was no control. It's like, this is what we expect. You're on your own, but guess what?
This is you.
Yeah.
This is you. And if you make stupid decisions, then the cleanup on your stupid decisions belongs to you.
I love that. As a mom, that's the biggest thing. It's hard to let go of the control and allow them to grow their wings. And they're going to fail, and it's okay they fail because they learn. And you laugh about it later when they're about 20 years older. But I wanted to get back to Keith because
yeah, I know. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows, and so Rachel was very affected during COVID. Keith passed away from COVID. Is that correct?
It's deeper than that. When we go to the very beginning of COVID, he'd been at a job over 20 years. Boom, laid off overnight. Complete identity crisis for him. Right. In addition to, boom, all that income is gone.
Right.
The big shock. But fortunately, at the time, I just was like, we're paying off everything and we're consolidating. And literally, don't laugh at me, but what I did with him, because he was not pleased and pretty upset.
Well, his ego was
pretty bruised.
Yeah.
So I said, go with your guys. They were going to go on a fishing trip in Nebraska.
Oh, I love that.
They were going to Lake McConaughey. I said, please go to Lake McConaughey, and when you come back, leave all that, I'm the victim, I'm hurt, I'm not going to have enough, leave all that there.
Thank you.
Catch you some big fish and leave all that there.
Fun.
And when you get back, we will transition into our new life. So while he was gone, I paid off everything that I could find, and I had this habit. I would save money and it'd be over here. I'd have little pots of this and that. And we had a third car, sold it. And I mean, when he got back, I was like, your finances are together and I want you to go look at your credit score. And he was like, wow, wow, and wow. I'm like, bruh, I need, from today, our retirement is going to be wonderful.
Could have been the best thing that happened to him, because you know what? Think about that time he had to spend without the worry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, we did things with the kids, and we traveled some, and and it was actually really nice. We helped with some friends that were putting together a new business, and we just deepened community ties, and really it turned into something wonderful. But most people looking at it initially, you lose a six-figure job and your whole life goes under
Well, and it's all
because of the fear.
Yeah, and the
Because
fear
of the fear.
is the lowest form of energy, or not probably the lowest, but it's close to the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
And it can stop you dead in your tracks.
Yeah. So, so the first thing that happened was the layoff, and we did everything we could do to transform that. But see, this is after years of thinking differently, right? And saying, what can I do that's positive in this situation? So, unfortunately, with the health things that kind of all happen, with being surrounded with COVID and having to shelter in place and all the rest of that, we got to the point where he was in the hospital, and it was a lot. It was a lot.
He was in the hospital because of COVID. Is that
because
correct?
of COVID.
Right.
Well, he didn't initially have COVID, to tell you the truth,
Oh.
as far as what we knew. He'd gone to the hospital for what should have been small. It should have been just like antibiotics, literally.
Oh.
Like antibiotics. And he'd been there a few days, and they're like, he has COVID. And we were like, really? Okay. And then all the rules changed. They went into this whole mode where they separated him from everyone. And that was the beginning of the end. Because what I learned is that the hospital is where people need their family the most.
Yes.
But there's
the
so much
advocates, the
fear
advocates.
around COVID that they cut him off from everyone.
Oh, my.
You had to wear a whole hazmat suit to have an hour, and we were rotating that hour among family members, and we couldn't get anybody to budge on it, even though it's the most unreasonable rule I've ever heard in my life.
It's sad because you're not the only story I've heard that with.
Yeah.
And it's just
I'm hearing it a lot, and
wasn't handled well.
no, it was not handled well at all. And so, because I'm kind of that quintessential rule breaker, when I'd gotten to the absolute end on the rule, I'm just going to admit it. I went to Memorial, and I was like, I want an eyes on welfare check of my husband. I'm hearing that he's not eating. Matter of fact, I've also hearing that he's not being bathed. The number that I heard on not being bathed was 11 days. And then nobody can tell me the last time that he ate. And that is unacceptable. And somebody's going to do something now. The shock of my life. I'm surrounded with security guards, 6.
Who all want to arrest you because you're there?
Drag me out of the building. Tell me.
Oh, my gosh.
And I literally called 911. I put the phone on, and this poor dispatcher was probably like, oh my God, this woman's nuts. I was like, I am at the hospital, and I am scared of these people. These people are crazy. But if it's going down like that, go ahead and send the police, because somebody getting their ass whooped today. I told him, I'm not leaving this spot.
This is my husband in here.
Yeah. I'm not leaving this spot, and so whoever wants to step up can get slapped first.
Wow.
If we're going to fight, we're going to fight on Facebook Live, and all of Colorado Springs going to see it, because that's where we going.
She has a lot of followers.
I said no. I didn't just say no. I said, hell no, we are not. It was the craziest thing, and I didn't enjoy the energy of that because I was scared. I'm like, am I really going to have to fight these people?
Did you feel like almost out of body when that was happening? 'Cause
Yeah.
I could feel that. I've been in a situation like that where it's something that you didn't expect, and you're fighting for something that's important.
And
Heartfelt fighting.
there's some piece of that was dangerous. And then I remember one security guard, they were like, you need to talk to her, you're black. And he walked up and he said, what is the problem? So I told him the problem, and he just said, and they expect you to leave? I said, they expect me to leave. He said, it's a black woman, and you really expect her to leave her husband? He said, I'm out. He walked away.
I love that
He
man.
walked away from. He said,
Amen.
He
Thank
said,
you,
not
God.
me. I'm not doing any of this.
Well, it's so absurd what people were having to enforce. And
All I wanted was to see him.
yeah,
All I wanted to do was hold his hand and
make
give
sure
him
he's okay.
some reassurance. And truthfully, I was trying to get him to like, please, baby, this ventilator stuff.
Was he on a ventilator then? I'm so sorry.
Babe, please don't do this. I've heard that it's not exactly an enhancement to your
It
breathing.
was, yeah, there was a lot of things they did not do and did not know. So there's
No one.
shoulda, coulda, was.
And, like I said, I'm not in blame about any of that. But the entire experience, I had to go somewhere and sit down. The police did indeed come, but they came out to support me
They understood.
with my welfare check request.
Thank you, God.
And they told the hospital, they're like, you guys are nuts.
Yeah.
We're not arresting her. We're looking at you kind of strange because you've got all these people and her. Do you understand what you look like? So they began facilitating something where we could, at least find out what was going on to a certain extent. And then I shared the experience and people just lost it completely. So here I am, my husband's in the hospital, Memorial's getting calls from their people on their staff, people on the inside.
Facebook people all taking a
Yeah.
stop.
People really, I've never seen an outpouring of caring like that. Never. It was stunning to me. And finally it went all the way up to, like Congress.
Wow.
It went that far.
Really?
And the congressman's office called Memorial. And the next day everything was different.
Oh.
It was phenomenal. And I've kind of started understanding something about people and trust, connection, faith. I was not going to win any of that with getting in to see him. I know people who literally had to go get their darling out of the pine box. The next day, they were letting me into the ICU. I could see him through the glass. They did Zoom things. They started letting us communicate. They started doing, like conference calls with us and the doctors. They finally started being forthcoming about information, and it was dire, but I felt like we were able to access him, more, but unfortunately at the end of that week, on Father's Day, he died. And I was with him. And
that's a blessing.
I'm so thankful that I was with him. I could hold his hand, and I knew that he was leaving. I could see the light leaving. Do you understand?
I do understand that as a medium.
I could see that.
You're getting me.
But I have to tell you about what happened in that moment.
Please, I'd love
That
to
is
hear
so unusual and strange. So I'm sitting with him, and of course I'm upset, and I see this. I get the light is leaving, and I'm holding his hand. I'm locked in his face, and I said, "Baby, I'm here. I told you I'd be here until this. I've kept that promise, okay?" And he just, you could see that was the end of it, right? And then peace hit me like a wave.
Wow.
I've never felt anything like this before. It was like God entered the room.
I'm getting so much goose right now. My head is vibrating.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
But-
To me, it's
but I have
such
to-
a validation.
I'm a traditional Christian type person, and I've heard about the peace that passes understanding, but I'm telling you, I'd never experienced it because I'm a mom. I was a professional warrior, right? When the peace hit, I'm not talking about numbness. I'm not talking about coldness. I'm talking about the kind of quiet, quiet and understanding and acceptance. So here I am. I've got other family members in the room, and they're hysterical.
They're wailing.
They're screaming. They're on the ground. And I'm picking up people, and I'm hugging them, and they're going, "What is that?"
Wow.
I had one of the strongest experiences with spirit I've ever had in my life. The people all trying to do the resuscitation. I was like, "Look, we're done.
Yeah.
Take these tubes out." Closing his eyes, take the stuff out. They're like, "It'll squirt." I'm like, "Just do it."
Thank you. Yeah.
This was a proud man, and I want him to have dignity in this moment. And I didn't understand it, but I said to my children, I'm not with this outcome, but the thing I know is that this is the moment where we need to acknowledge God's plan is better.
Oh, I love that. Did you feel the love in that room? Was it love what you were feeling that came over you, the wash?
Love, peace, but it was so quiet.
Almost like you were floating maybe a little bit?
I don't even know. I try to think about it because it's my go-to quiet place. Like if I'm getting really frantic now,
you use
I remember when everything stopped and things got quiet and my mind was quiet and clear, and I was in that acceptance, and I just feel like heaven hushed.
Wow.
As he walked into it.
Oh.
And in that moment, we have that in the room because everybody got quiet. So I'm hugging, the kids, and I'm going to call your spouses because y'all are beside yourself and you definitely can't drive your cars. So let me attend to that. And I walked out, and the chaplain was like, he kept looking at me.
Like you should be a mess.
Yeah.
You know what you were the calm in the storm. You had to be that central focal point to be the calm so the whole room could follow you. Your energy, everybody followed.
Yeah, and this chaplain was like,
honor.
"Are you okay?" I said, "I am." And I said really quietly, "Blessed be the name of the Lord."
Yeah, I would tell you.
And people up and down this hall started screaming and crying. And it was like spirit was walking around in the hospital. I've never, and I started calling people and kind of just attending to the kids, and it was like, I get that happened. So I actually went back in the room, and I laid on the bed with him for a while. To be able to say my goodbye. And he seemed very peaceful, like he was asleep. And so as we began kind of unfolding the rest of what we had to, and truthfully calming some of the community down, because there were some things. I mean, the sheriff called me at one point, like, "Rachel, people are threatening to burn down the hospital. Can you go on Facebook Live and calm people down?" And I was like, "Okay, we can try to do that." I feel like what I learned in that moment is that the moments that break your heart, if you will dare, you can let your heart break open.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And the love that is beyond what you have can pour into a situation.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It really.
Because that is truly what happened. And even crying, thinking about it, I'm not crying because it's hurtful to me. I'm still in awe of the encounter I had with the living God.
Being in that beautiful presence, death is as close to you to life, birth. And I think it's even more beautiful because you're there, because Jesus, God is going to come take this beautiful soul up. And
Yeah.
he's in the room reaching out for him, along with family members who also have passed on.
Right. And it was just, it was kind of awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I get that.
And I don't know what I really thought death was going to be. Because, see, I'm that person. I don't go to funerals. You know what I'm saying? I be avoiding all of that like the plague, right?
Yeah, here you are in the
all
midst
my
of
life,
it.
all my life, and I'm in the middle of this, and this happens. And the other thing that was kind of wild, we did, a viewing a few days later, and everybody who walked into the room just did this. They did the same thing because it was very clear that he was smiling.
Oh,
It
I
was
love
very
that.
clear. And everybody who looked in just was like, did they do that? I asked the personnel, because they have
They
to
fix
do
the
whatever
body,
with the body
yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, he was like that.
Well, they go to this beautiful place, heaven.
No more pain.
No more pain.
Right, because Keith spent years, with the kind of problems that, you have when you don't take care of your body.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just didn't know young. And when I met Keith was over 300 pounds.
Really?
And,
Wow.
and so, like, the Keith that most people met that was, anywhere from 150 to, pounds less than what he was when we met, we're just like, that's how much you used to weigh.
That's amazing.
So those initial things, and losing the weight and all the rest of the things that happened through the years of just leaving the man alone to be himself, to be truthful, and not, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And learning how to do that, giving him responsibility for anything that could be considered a fault. He'd go fix it himself instead of, me being somewhere being naggy wife. And this is why so many times relationships don't work for people. Women go into these relationships and
They're going to fix them.
They're going to fix them.
They're going to fix him. I got it. These other women didn't know how to handle him, but I got this.
Yeah, I'm going to fix him. I fixed nothing. I left him alone.
You accepted him.
To be himself, and the next thing I know, he's improving things and doing things, but he never did get fully well, right? And this situation with the COVID and some of the other things, sneaking up and all the rest of it, he wasn't going to get well. And I think I understand. If I had a choice between,
Staying here or
and
leaving.
being really, really bad or leaving,
Mm-hmm.
I would leave.
Oh, and you get to feel that up there when you're in the process of moving on and moving up. You feel the energy up there, and you want it. The light is so beautiful.
I'm convinced that's what happened, because I remember praying and literally, like, I don't even know how many thousands were praying. It literally became overwhelming, the amount of love that was poured towards us with people here in the community. And I remember just being like, going, okay, we're kind of going to rally around the Lord's Prayer, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So when I'm in this room and all of a sudden heaven's in the room,
Mm-hmm.
do you understand?
I do understand that completely. I can feel it.
I was like, oh, this is what we asked for, and it was startling. It was very, very startling the way that showed up. So I came out of it with a sense of hope that was stronger than anything that's ever happened to me
I love hope.
in my life. And I miss him. It's Valentine's Day, and
He's wishing you love. I can feel that right now.
oh yeah, because
I feel like
he
he's
really
handing you those little candy hearts with the little sayings on them. I feel that too. Oh,
he really valued me.
Well,
Really
he-
valued me and really loved me, because
he will give you a sign today if he hasn't already. I believe that. He's not missing Valentine's.
and sometimes he does show up. I'm gonna tell you this one story, and you'll probably laugh. So I set up a memorial fund, not because I needed any help with anything. I literally paid for the funeral the day after he died. I was like, I went in,
Done.
please just, I don't want to think about that part anymore. So I did that the first day. But I set up this memorial fund with the intent of doing things that would be tributes with young musicians. So I set aside funds to be able to maybe foster some, the conservatory, I'm trying to sponsor, some of the young musicians in that setting so that they can use their talents to escape the hood the way Keith did, because he was an extraordinary musician.
BTW, backlog for a second. I don't think a lot of people who don't know you, that you and Keith sung in your own band together called Fat Daddies, P-H-A-T, Daddy. And you had quite a following in the community and in Denver.
Yeah.
So music is one of your gifts.
Yeah.
So today, we had to go back to the story. I'm squirreling for a second.
Okay, so when I set up the memorial account, somebody sent me a large check, and I went to deposit the check. I walk into Ant Federal Credit Union, and I'm standing at the counter, and I hear "Let's Get It On," which was one of his favorite songs to sing. And I'm at the counter going, am I crazy? They don't play music like that in here. So I'm completely confused, like, where is this music coming from? So the teller in front of me laughs and says, we were so bored today, so we've got Bluetooth going, and we've got the speaker with this over here. And I said, okay. So I'm taking out this check, I'm signing it, I'm giving it to the teller. The next song was I Want You Back, and this teller starts dancing. Because there's this part in I Want You Back where there's, the point and then the thing with the head, and, it's an iconic thing. So he's laughing, doing that. Yeah, this step, blah, blah, blah. People in his bank start dancing. I thought I was in a scene from a movie. All these people are dancing because he was dancing, and they're all laughing. And this was like one of Keith's absolute favorite songs to sing. And I said, okay, baby, I see you.
There's always, and I will say this, for people who have lost their loved ones, they will send you signs, symbols, and just greatness from them if you're open to see it and not think, oh, that's just a coincidence, because there are no coincidences in my mind's eye.
Here I am putting away these funds for the musicians, and
he's thanking you.
And this is the crazy thing. So every once in a while, I'm in and they're at it with the Bluetooth again, this particular one on Galley. But not like that day. People literally were dancing in line and laughing and poking each other and having conversations and just, I don't know, remembering things about the song. So, yes, the death is hard. Yes, the loss is difficult. And yes, we're talking about life change overnight. Up to this point, I lived in our house with him. We had some of our grandchildren, and all of that changed overnight.
Right.
So I'm alone in the house with the dog.
What did you say earlier, which I love, the statement you made about being, you had to learn how to be with you again?
Oh.
That to me was my favorite thing you said. I mean,
me with the dog? I haven't been just me in a long time.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why. Because when you marry someone and you have a family and you're raising a family, or in my case, really 2 sets of kids, because I raised the first set and then found myself with the second set of necessity. And I'm so glad I did it, because they're wonderful people and they would not have been nurtured in the way maybe that they needed at the time, because their mom had them very young. So it was, I haven't been just me for a long time. Almost every thought in my head was, what am I going to do for the kids? Who's going to the activity?
Right.
What does Keith need to do? What's happening with the band?
You're the last priority.
Absolutely, the last one, that I would get to, maybe. I'm just being truthful, because
I love that. I mean, we are all that way. A lot of us live that life for a long time.
And it's not sometimes the best way to do things. So I was kind of in this, in this growth phase before, Keith passed, of kind of trying to go, what am I going to be next, or what am I going to do next, and thinking about things for myself. So, I was blessed with, the column at the Gazette and being able to share thoughts, which was amazing to me. I'm like, God, this many people are like reading my thoughts, because I knew they were. I would be somewhere in the market or something, and somebody would walk up to me and be like, "You're Rachel," and I would be like, most of the time. Occasionally, I'm someone else, but that's my evil twin, and they would laugh.
I'm laughing.
But I hadn't been just me. My whole life revolved around everyone else but me, and so to suddenly go overnight to
Just Rachel.
just me,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Now, the GOP has been asking me to run for 5 years.
Doesn't surprise me.
And I got up one morning and I called them back and I said, I think I'm ready. And so the person on the phone was like, even now? I'm like, especially now. I have the time, I have the funds, and I have the same desire to serve that I always have. I'm an acts of service person. For those of you who do love language, I'm an acts of service person.
I love
So that's how I tell someone I love them. I'm learning that sometimes
From
you got to. The five love languages.
Yeah, five love languages. Yes.
Some people are quality people's time. Some people they really need affirming words. Some people really need physical touch. Some people love gifts. But I'm not any of those. I'm that acts of service.
Tell them that you
person.
love them.
Yeah. So, I have always loved this community and felt connected to it, but I always had the constraints of taking care of
People.
this many other people in my everyday. And so, by only having the completely crazy dog, feel free to come get him, y'all. That dog is crazy. I'm just saying. My pit bull climbs the trees in my yard.
Oh my God.
You have to see it. It's actually kind of cool. It's like his pride rock. I'm ruling the yard before I bite something else.
Well, I have to laugh because we did lunch 5 years ago, and I saw you running for something in the future, and you said, "I can't. I'm too busy." Not sure.
That's totally what I said.
Nope, Carm. I have grandchildren. I have children. I'm busy. And I'm like,
That is completely what I said.
Yep.
And
Deny.
I don't know. I think it was a timing thing. And my
was.
grown children were all in position. They all have positioned themselves of really taking care of their own lives.
So you don't need to be anybody but you now.
And I'm learning, that it's kind of interesting, to have time alone, to be able to reflect, but also, with campaigning and studying things. I study things. I am not talking about going to a position half at it. I mean, I take it seriously. So I'm always in front of somebody picking their brain for, the problems we need to solve, the things with affordable housing, the things with, our public safety issues. And, in HD 17 where I live, they just plain disrespect us. I'm just not cool with the way we get treated by media and often officials and bureaucrats, because we really kind of have this thing happening where we're not represented, so we're not thought of well.
Well, and I think with your energy and your passion, I think you're going to shift that, to be honest. I feel that coming. I was going to ask you just a question. I wanted to know what kind of advice you'd give to somebody who has lost their love of their life, since we're on Valentine's Day. What would be your advice to a widow or widower?
Go to grief counseling right now.
Amen on that one.
No. So grief counseling is different. Now, I told y'all I'm a professional go to therapy person. Okay? This was different. In our society, we teach people the things we say when someone dies are the exact opposite of what the person in front of us needs.
Yep.
The exact opposite.
They need to talk about
We
it.
make grief worse.
Mm-hmm.
We make grief unsafe to relate about.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give anyone safe space for their anger or their sadness. We don't even give people room to be okay. We don't give it. No. We treat people like when someone dies, it's time for your whole life to fall apart.
Well, I think people are afraid to talk about death because
Yeah.
that means they're going to die someday soon. And the more we can embrace death and not fear it anymore, the more we will grow and also support the people who are grieving. Because they have to admit, when you're grieving, someone doesn't want to talk about, oh, I might upset them. It's really what they might have upset themselves by talking about
Real
grief.
talk, right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and really, that's most of what happened. What I experienced in that room, that encounter with God, I don't know what that did to me, but I'll have people that go, how are you?
Oh,
And I go, I'm good.
Yeah.
And they go, how are you really?
tell us. Yeah.
And I'm going, I don't know how to explain to you. I have become clear that there is a heaven, very clear, and that it is beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and that it is wonderful, and that it is peaceful, and that it doesn't hurt there. I've become convinced. And so while I'm not trying to rush there, and I
Right.
ain't trying to take those shortcuts to get there,
It's okay.
I'm okay about that. And him going there,
Mm-hmm.
it seems kind of wonderful, actually. So the other thing is the grief counseling taught me how to be for real about how I feel. So if I have a day like our wedding anniversary,
Oh,
I'm going to tell y'all the truth. I laid in bed all day.
good for you.
I did.
Good for you.
I laid in bed all day, and I watched the most stupid movies you've ever looked at because I was kind of trying to be like, okay, I'm gonna lay here and be somewhat sad today because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
My
You're
energy-
honoring yourself.
My energy's not together, but I don't want to fall into like a complete depression. So here I am trying to watch funny movies, and everyone, I could not make a good choice to save my life on a funny movie. That would be like, what is really happening? I would change the movie and watch something else. But I laid in bed all day. I did nothing. My sweet roommate brought me something to eat, and I got up the next day, and I was kind of ready to get back to work. Sometimes, you see me around town and I'm talking about this and I'm cool, but you might see me in the coffee shop and I'm talking about this and I'm screaming, I'm crying, and snot is flying. And you know what? If you are uncomfortable, then leave my presence, because I'm going to feel what I feel every single day.
You honor yourself. You're honoring yourself when
I
you're
have
allowing
to.
it.
And how I feel, I have other days I'm walking around like I had this dude who just lived trying to make things good for me. I once looked at a picture. This picture was by this artist, Keith Mallet. And I had one of the pictures. It was a limited edition print, and I bought it 1,000,000 years ago, and it kind of grew in value, and I'm proud of it. It hangs in my house, and it's these women, and it's generations, and they're holding a baby like this, and you can see the mom, and then you can see grandma, and then you can see great grandma, and I just think it's a beautiful picture. And I remember casually mentioning, I wish I could have this counterpart that had the man. Because I saw it in the magazine and forgot about it. What do you think was under the Christmas tree?
Oh, he got
Signed by the artist.
you. He was a thoughtful man.
I literally cried on Christmas Day. I was so excited that he'd paid attention to that.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
I do understand that.
And I almost ruined it being stupid. Let's be for real, for real. For some of y'all ladies out there, y'all ruining stuff with good people.
Well, I think we're going to wrap up, but I'm going to tell you something. I feel like what you've shared today has been so intimate and so beautiful. And I hope people listen to this podcast because you really shared so much on the power of understanding, of not controlling people.
Yeah.
You know, understanding that what part of me caused this.
Right.
Your ego was not involved, and how you fixed something that could have gone awry. And you had the most beautiful marriage from that.
Yeah. I mean,
Power of love, baby.
and see, that's the real thing. That's the love. We think of love as affection, and it is.
It is, but it isn't all.
We think of love as what we'll get. I don't know that we think enough of love as the gift we give by letting others be who they are.
It's beautiful. It's true. Acceptance. I just have to say thank you so much. I mean, your soulful story has. I could cry. I'm trying not to because I don't do that. We're not allowed to cry in my family when I was growing up. Oh, it's okay. I do cry now and then, but when I do, it's kind of the ugly cry, so it's not pretty. But I will tell you, on a day like today, I'm just so glad that we got to connect in our energy.
Yeah.
And maybe, is there any shout out you want to give today? Because there's something going on big
There
today
is.
in the love field, I call it.
So, Family Flavors a Slide, where we're shooting today, is doing a Give in the Name of Love Community Cleanup Day. And that's going to be at 3 o'clock down in Dorchester Park. And so it's part of the Homeless Not Hopeless campaign that the station is doing. And then a lot of people are just giving to be able to help.
Let's hold that up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
They're looking for donations, so you can tell a little bit more on that.
I can. We're inviting people to give in the name of love. It's a collaborative effort, and there's a QR code that you can scan to look for a chance to sponsor. By the way, I sponsored, and it made me feel really good because the last one, we went to Dorchester and we just interacted with these folks going through all of this stuff. The people that we call lost or forgotten, or some of us in the community, we call worthless and all of those other things. And I don't know that any of us is worth less.
It's true.
I don't, no matter what we're going through. And I am glad that to take this day to just be able to give out some messages of worth to people who may not receive much of that.
Where can they go on the internet to be able to pay or put a donation in for this today?
Can you help me guys with this? Do they need to see the QR code or?
They can scan the QR code, or they could just search for us on any major platform. We're on Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, Chime.
What
Family
Snap.
Flavors the Slide.
Most of them are listed under the Slide WBN.
Yeah, Slide World Broadcast Network.
Venmo and PayPal are going to be the whole name. Family Flavors the Slide WBN.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, we feeling like a little love today? Give a little love from your pocketbook because it'll help others know that they're going to share in the love, because some people are very forgotten in this time and don't have that loved one.
And consider this. Stop with the blame already. Maybe it's not everybody else's fault. And even if it is their fault, responsibility always belongs to us. If we walk into a problem, even if someone else caused it, right? The responsibility on us is, are we going to react in a way that makes the problem worse or makes it better?
We are all connected.
Right.
And even the people you see on the streets, we all have the connection. We're tentacles of each other.
Right.
And so when one hurts, we all have a little feeling of it too.
Mm-hmm. So even in being in politics, I know this is strange for other people, but I don't feel particularly competitive about it. I feel that I have things to present to the community, and I am hoping that our relationships can become better.
Amen on that one.
And I'm out to
that.
foster ways to do that and to bring it into lawmaking. And I know that it's an unusual approach, but I'm convinced that it's the approach that will work because it's what we haven't tried. We haven't been for real and good to one another in a while, and we need to fix that.
The division in this country right now, it's not good. And if we can come to the center and see each other for who we are as souls and spirits, and that we're all made up of the same, we just have to know everybody's had a different journey. And I appreciate, and thank you for sharing your journey today. I can't tell you enough that I really appreciate you allowing me to come into your space and do this podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that you came. I'm kind of glad to put words to it and be able to share it, because it's really been very transformative. And when you want to transform a region, I guess you have to start with yourself.
You do.
That's what I'm doing.
On that note, I guess we'll sign off, and thank you again.
Thank you for coming and for being so patient.
Yay!